And now, from Glasgow.
So hi there, welcome to the next stage of building our Hong Kong Lancaster. So today what I'm planning on doing, I've just noticed my hair is all wonky, my apologies. So I have, today we're working on the, going to paint the rest of the pilot seat. I'm going to be placing the yellow dot on. We're also going to be looking at some figures that I've bought. Now these are optional extras, they were quite costly. But I think for the amount of money we paid, I think they're really going to bring something to the model. So before we begin, let's have a look at what they're up to in Hachette land. So this is Building with the Boys. Don't forget to give him a check out. If you want to see the whole video, it is a really good video. Head over there, have a look. Let's see what they're up to. Nice LED cables. We do like LEDs, don't we? So it pretty much looks like they have got pretty much the same as before. So just fuselage and bits. I think this is one of those builds where Scott's going to say lovely an awful lot. Ooh. So this is something that I'm quite keen to look on, because obviously our platform, pilot's platform, is a little bit too big. I have been told that the Hachette one is the correct size, so I'm keen to see how this looks. That's something I actually agree with. If it fits and it's not like a part that's going to be taking much stress, don't glue it. Obviously if that was an external piece I would be gluing that in, but because that's not, it's on the inside, you're not even going to be touching it. I'm going to pop this back onto, remember last time that we speeded it up. I think I'm going to do that again actually. So basically what he's doing is he's putting on extra detailings, but he's debating whether to glue them on. So again, we're just dealing with small details. I do like the small details. They might be quite fiddly, but they do add an awful lot to the build, especially when it's different colours. So again, I wouldn't glue that in myself if it fits in fine. It's not something that we're going to be fiddling with. Now the only issue I have there is there's a bit of a seam line there where the two parts join. Is that going to be important? I don't know. We will obviously try and take a note of that, and when we come to build ours we will see what happens. So that's quite good, because you look at the colour of the padding on this bomb aimer's rest. This is the same colour as the padding on my pilot seat, and just by eye it looks a very similar colour, but his looks a little bit glossy. So again, two more windows. You know my thoughts on the windows. I do think that lip is a little bit big, but he's going to be doing the usual microcrystal clear glue, and it does look nice, especially from the outside. I'm not going to take that away. There, the question is, if you heard that click, the question I'd be asking is, do you actually need to glue them in? Because they look like they're going in so solid. I would question whether glue is needed. But, you know, like Scott said earlier in his video about another part, if you want to glue them in, you glue them in. Now, this is one bit I query, because I didn't see it in my instructions. It's like a bullet protector that goes behind the pilot. I don't recall seeing it on mine. I did look at the instructions, but obviously we'll see what happens. But maybe if we're desperate enough, if it doesn't come with the Hong Kong version, we can always go out and buy a copy of this issue and maybe modify it and use it. Now these parts, these anti-icing things, they do come on ours, on mine. And these will be put in stage 69, and I think they're going to be photo etch. So mine are going to be a lot thinner than his. Right, so that is pretty much it. Nice little build as always. Couple of bits left over for future issue, and they've given us an LED cable, and this is the reason why I've ordered lights and motors for mine, because I don't think you can really do without it. Right, so let's go over and let's do some building. Welcome to the next episode. I've forgotten the episode number. Are we episode 4? Cool, if I'm forgetting already. What are we going to be like when we get further into it? Right, so in a previous episode I managed to lose my footage of doing some airbrushing. So I'll be able to show you that today, because what I want to do is I want to paint the yellow circle on the pilot seat. Now, unfortunately, I had a little dry run. It was a little bit time consuming, and I think I got it absolutely perfect, so I don't really want to remove this masking tape. But as you can see, I've done a little circle. I'll explain how I've done it, but it's the placement. Don't know how well you can see that. Where it's a little bit darker, that's the actual seat underneath. So this is how I've done it. I've used this. I bought this from an art shop, the Works, W.H. Smith, somewhere that sells art, and it's a circle template. And as you can see, I've used it before for spraying the inside of a wheel. I found it really handy. If you want to draw a circle, if you want to paint a circle on there, just place it on, spray, and you got yourself a nice circle. But it only really works for textured things. I can't find anything. There we go. This is a really bad example, but if I wanted to paint this, I could do that. Sorry, I'm off camera a bit. But yeah, if I wanted to do a circle in there, I can hold that down rather hard. It kind of works. So the first thought that I had is, because I want to kind of, this plane, I want it to be modern, as in if it's in a museum. So I don't want it crisp and new like it came off the factory floor. So one of the things I'm looking at is, I don't want that circle to be absolutely perfect. I want it to have a little tiny bit of wear and tear. So I don't want to do a perfect circle. Now the idea that I came up with, this is something that I bought years ago. I've had them for so long, I don't even know where I got them from. They weren't very expensive. They might have come from Poundland, the Works, Hobbycraft, something like that. And it's a shaping set. I reckon I've had these about 10 years. When I was doing Warhammer, I was looking at making, like, if you have a figure and you want to do a kit bash or something, you want to blend perhaps a uniform or something, pop in some putty like milliput, and then just add in texture to sort of make it blend. So I bought these, and to be honest with you, I've never ever used them, but I was looking at them recently, and I think it's this one that I used. I've just stupidly, I thought I did pull out the ones that I used, and then I've gone and put them back in. So a couple of tools that I've really like is, for this job, are these little tools, and they've got tiny ball on the end, and they're all in various sizes, as you can see. And the one that I'm looking at is this one. Now, believe it or not, there is a ball on the end there, and it's not much bigger than the actual pointy end. That's my first useful one. The next useful one is the largest one that I can find, which is this one. So let me show you how I have done this circle. So what I need is some 10mm Tamiya tape. I found that gap in there is, it's about 10 or 11 millimeters. So what I'm going to do is, and this will take a few goes, guys, you may not get it first time. So take a piece of tape that's too long, take the circle template, and just draw out circles which you think might be right. I thought 4mm was a good one to start with, and I found it was way too small. You can use a circle template to sort of have a guess. Now, spoiler alert, I think 6mm works best. So what I do is I get my 6mm hole, I place it over the masking tape, and I get the smallest one that I have, and all I'm going to do is just gently draw around a circle, just increasing the pressure as we go. And I wonder if it helps because I'm on a cutting mat, which is a slightly spongy surface. Now, what the formula is for working and not working, I don't know, but what this is going to do is gently wear away the tape, and then when you are finished, there we go, I've worn it away. I don't know how well you can see that, but that is I've actually just worn it away. Yeah, that's, there you go, you can just see the outline. So what I can now do is carefully pick that circle out with a knife, and it's not quite worn away enough. Doesn't matter if you wreck it. There we go. And then what we can do with this circle, we can place the circle wherever we want to place, where we want the final circle, and we can say, oh, does that look okay? If we think it's okay, remove it. We now have our little template. What I've then done is I've taken the masking tape off carefully, because once you get to that circle it could pull it, and then I've placed on the masking tape exactly where I want it. The back is harder because you want to try and line that circle up so it's the same, and this is the only way I can think to get it right, is to place it and just keep comparing it. Now, the reason that I use a piece of masking tape that's too long is I want the circle on the end, as you can see. Now, if I was to muck this up, which I have mucked a few up, all I then need to do is just cut that off, dispose of that, and I can start again. Now, if you get it right first time, or you will end up with a little bit of excess. As you place that on, all you need to do is just trim the end off. Okay, so that's how I've done that. So you end up with a little test piece, and you get the final mask as well. Then once I've placed it on, I've got this larger one, this larger hole, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run around the edges like this. I just want to make sure the ends of those masking tape are down. Because it's smooth, it doesn't matter if you scratch that paint, but it won't scratch the paint because it's smooth. It will if you obviously gouge it. So I've just gone round it, making sure that tape is stuck down. You will have lost a little bit of tacky because you've stuck it to the cutting mat, especially if you've got a dirty cutting mat like mine. And I've just gone round like this. And then on the back, make sure you don't knock the pieces off that you've glued. Okay, now when we come to spray this, if you're a good airbrusher, which I'm not, you'll be able to use that and you'll be able to get the yellow in. But I don't quite trust my abilities controlling the overspray. So what I've now got, as well as I've got some Tamiya tape. Well, I use the word Tamiya tape. To be absolutely honest with you, most of the tape that I buy comes from Hobbycraft. These Tamiya tapes, I bought one of each for the box. and then once it runs out I'll use this as the refill. But this is still the original Tamiya tape. I can't remember the sizes that I bought. I know that that's 10mm. This one looks like 6mm, and this big fat tape 18mm. Would that be 18mm? To be honest with you, I hardly ever use the 18mm, so any opportunity I get to use it I will. So all I'm going to do now, purely because I want to control the overspray, is I'm just going to mask around. It doesn't need to be neat, but what it needs to do is cover up all of the seat, like so. So I'll get a piece on the back. I am really bad at masking, as in my masking isn't neat, but I probably use far too much tape as well. So there are other ways to mask. This isn't exclusive. But yeah, I'm using large masking tape simply because this is tape that I don't use very often. So you know, rather than sort of coming one day and going, oh, I've run out of the tape that I need the particular size of, I might as well, I think it'll be donkey's years before I run out of this 18mm. Saying that, in this project I might use it a lot, so you have an email. Right, there we go, guys. So that, if I do a bit of overspray, I mean, it doesn't really matter if I got overspray, because we're about to paint yellow, and yellow is a light colour, so I can go over it with the green and it won't make too much difference. Do you know what? I'm actually going to put a little bit over the seat. Belt and braces, I probably put too much on, but that will be fine. So let's spray that yellow. If I can find my button to stop recording. Okay, so I'm going to start off by mixing my paint. Now the colour call out in the instructions is, let me just find it. Can't find it. So we are looking for colour G. Colour G. Now they're telling us that for G we want flat yellow, which is RC008, Tamiya XF3, or Mr. Hobby H413. Now that translates to AK11044, which is yellow. But I wonder if that's a little bit bright. So obviously this has been costed in. I'm actually going to use a dirty yellow because obviously it's a little bit older. The colour won't be original. Now to make a dirty yellow, all you really need to do is take the yellow, which is costed into the model, and add a tiny bit of black or grey. Maybe grey if you're not very good, if you're not experienced with mixing colours. Maybe add grey, because grey will bring that colour, it will drag the colour down a lot more slowly than black. But black or grey will be absolutely fine. But as I say, optional, I'm going to use a dirty yellow. And all we need to do, I'm going to be doing some airbrushing. You don't have to use an airbrush. You could do brush painting, but I think you get a better result with an airbrush, because we can do this very, very thin. We can build that colour up really, really slowly. Now, I'm not going to put a lot in because I'm only doing 2 dots, but I need to take into account that once we thin this, there will be some stuck to the bottom, so it's going to be a bit wasteful. So I'm just going to put, say, 2 or 3 drops in. Now, this is quite thin paint, but it's too thick for the airbrush. Now, if you watch videos on how to airbrush, you will get words like milky consistency, The truth is, in my experience, is that if you over thin the paint, it's still usable. It's just that you won't get such a good coverage. There are techniques when you use the paint thick, and there's techniques when you use the paint thin. In this particular situation, it doesn't matter if we over thin it. So I'm not going to tell you ratios and things. All I'm going to say is that with this particular paint, I can go roughly 1 part paint, 1 part water, but I tend to just slosh it in. The thinner that we use, most people will probably use something like this. I actually make my own thinners up, which is alcohol, water, a little bit of retarder, a little bit of flow improver. Now the reason I put the retarder in is because when the paint comes out of the airbrush, because it's coming out with the air, it dries it much quicker, and there's always a risk of it drying before it hits the model. So the retarder just slows it a little bit. If you want me to tell you how to make this, I can. This is as good as Tamiya thinner, but at about 1/14 of the cost, 1/15 cost. This is about £7. This is about 40 or 50 pence. I will be happy to explain that if you want. There is a video somewhere on my channel on how to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add roughly equal quantity of paint, and I'm going to mix that up, mix it thoroughly. Now unfortunately I've been airbrushing long enough that experience kind of comes into it. That's a little bit thick, so we'll put a little bit more in, and I think I may actually have over thinned this, which isn't a problem. Now try to use something with a flat edge. I actually use these little kebab sticks, and then just before I use them I cut the ends off so that they're flatter. So you can see that that's still quite a bright yellow, even though it's referred to as dirty yellow. I think maybe a nicer name for it perhaps would be aged yellow. Now when we've got that, we're just going to run that up the side. Is that flowing nicely? That's the question we're asking. You see it's almost like water. In fact, I'm going to just pop in one more drop, and you can see how far this paint goes. I've only put a couple of drops in, but I've got rather a lot of paint in there. I've probably got the equivalent of about, I don't know, 1/10 of a bottle. So you know, you see this, to be honest with you, you're probably going to make the equivalent of 3 or 4 bottles with it. Right, so I'm happy with that, I think. So look, I don't know if you can see on the side where I've run it up the side, and it's run down very quickly, and it's actually dried fairly quickly. So we know that's good. Right, so airbrush. There are 2 main variables with an airbrush. I'm just going to turn my compressor on. There are 2 main variables with an airbrush. There is the amount of paint that's coming out, and there's the air pressure. So people will tell you air pressures, people will tell you this, that and the other, and I'll be honest with you, I don't always get it myself. What I like to do is, if you've got an airbrush that controls, you see that there's a screw here, and it controls how far back the paint can come out. I like to set that for roughly half, and then mine also has an air control. Now the thinner the paint, the lower the air pressure you require. So as a result, what I do is I turn that air pressure right down, with the paint coming about halfway out as a start, and then I'll be doing adjustments from there. Now I'm a little bit lucky in that I get lots and lots and lots of deliveries, so I always have cardboard or kitchen roll or whatever lying around. In this particular case, I'm going to use a kitchen roll. And what we're going to do, when we think we've got the correct, let's use a posh word, shall we, ratios. When we think we've got the correct amount of paint in there, we're going to pour that into our airbrush cup. And you'll see that I've wasted a little bit because it's all stuck on the bottom of the cup. That's why we do make too much. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to spray that out. And there, I don't know if you can catch that, but that's coming out very gently. Okay, now normally I'd wear a glove. You should wear a glove. And then when you use a glove, you can use your back of your hand as well. That will give you a really good test of what it's like. Now, I just think I want to turn the air. There we go. Right, so that is coming out very, very gently, and that's exactly what I want. So let's see if I can get a bit of a zoom in. No, it's a zoom out. So what I'm going to do, always test on cardboard or something. So what I'm going to do is starting off the circle. Okay, so I'm hitting the masking tape. I'm going to just gently hit that. And as you can see, like, I've hardly touched it. Right, and then once I've got the first layer on, right, you see the fingers are there when I want the paint and it's there when I don't. I'm pushing down for air. So once I've got the first layer of paint on, I'm pushing the trigger forwards, but I'm keeping the air coming out to dry it. And then bring it back off. Bring the trigger in, we can apply a second coat. Okay, and then I'm just going to dry that off. Keep testing and just make any adjustments you feel you might need. This is going to be quite vibrant on white kitchen roll. It's not going to be quite so vibrant on the green. I've just gone a little bit too heavy there, but it's okay because I haven't put so much on. It's running. If you have the air pressure a little bit too high, you're going to get like a spidering effect. This is why we have the air pressure a little bit lower. By the way, guys, I don't even know if this is going to work. It should work. And what's quite handy here, do you know what? Okay. Now I have actually got that a little bit uneven, but I'm going to go with it, guys. Remember, I want this to look like it's well looked after, it's well preserved, but it was built 60 years ago. That I think I'm happy with. So we've gone from that to that. So what I'm going to do, because I've not put enough paint in, I'm going to do the rest off camera. And what will be tomorrow for me, but it will be a couple of seconds for you, I will remove the masking tape. I will remove all bar a little bit. Okay, so I need to come in at different angles just to make sure I hit that little ledge. There we go, guys. And I'm rather happy with that. So you see, it's taken a long time. It's not just bum slap on it goes. I have a firm belief that the more effort you put in, the better the result. And that means building the layers up very gently. And I think you'll get a better result that way. Right, so when it comes to, in fact, let me take a cut when I've got to finish the back off, and then I'm going to show you how I clean my airbrush. Okay, so I still have my airbrush compressor running. What I have now is I have a spray out pot. You may have seen it like that. Take the lid off because I'm going to pour things in. We have hot water straight from the kettle. I have a pipette, and I have plenty of kitchen roll. This particular kitchen roll is quite good, so maybe 3 or 4 sheets, something fairly cheap. Now, people are going to tell you use various chemicals. Yes, you could if you really want to, but I've recently learnt this new method, which is quick and easy and cheap. So we get our, well, first thing I want to do is actually clean out my my little pot, because I want to reuse this. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to wipe that out, and then as a bit of a cheat I'm going to just pop a little bit of thinner in there, and doesn't need to be sparkling. I do periodically give all of my tubs, all my things a good deep clean, but that's certainly good enough. So that's sorted out. Then what you want to do is, I should have used the end. Any excess you've got in your airbrush, just tip that into your spray out pot and then give it a bit of a wipe just to get as much as you can out with the cloth. Okay, so that's, as you see, it's fairly clean now already. So what we're now going to do is we're going to get our hot water straight from the kettle, and I'm just going to put some hot water in there, mind your fingers, and I'm going to block the end of the airbrush up, and I'm just going to, you'll see how that bubbles up, and then I'm going to tip that into the spray out pot. I'm then going to do it again, and I'm just going to keep doing that until that water runs clear. Okay, now every time I mention water, we get, oops, I just burnt myself. Every time I mention water, the often heated debate comes up about distilled water. I don't think there'll be a problem with this, but I live in Scotland. Now the water up here is lovely. There are reasons why other countries are better than Scotland. There are reasons why Scotland is better than other countries. This is the same debate you'll get with every single country, but the quality of the water is not one of the reasons why Scotland's horrible. Right, so yeah, we pay low council tax, low water rates, and the water up here is lovely. So don't be frightened to use water if you live in Scotland. Right, that has run through clear, so I'm going to get a piece of kitchen roll and I'm going to wipe out as much of that as I can. There we go. Now I'm going to put the lid on the spray out pot, and I'm going to put just a tiny bit of hot water in, just enough just to cover the hole at the bottom, and I'm going to back flush. That's called back flushing, or gangster. Sometimes I call it gangster if I'm mixing colours in the cup. I call it gangster mixing. Right, and then what I want to do, get your air pressure on nice and full, get your trigger so it can go right far back, and we'll just spray that through, and hopefully that should run through fairly quickly. Now I'll try and get a close-up of that. So I don't know if you can see the water level on there. When I spray it through, you should see that water level drop, which it is dropping. Yeah, you can see it dropping. So for my particular airbrush, that's quite normal. I'm quite happy with that. If you find the water level isn't dropping, obviously there's a blockage. So I'm happy with that. What I then like to do, just for belt and braces, you don't need to do this. Get a little bit of thinners or anything that contains alcohol. We're just going to put a couple of drops in there, and then we're going to spray that through. Now, what you do next is depending on what you're doing with the airbrush. If you're going to use the airbrush again, then I would just go straight through and use it. If I'm not going to use the airbrush for a while, I'll just put another couple of drops in, give it 1 or 2 squirts, and then I'll leave it. So it's still got a little bit of airbrush cleaner in the airbrush thinner, sorry. So then the alcohol in the airbrush thinner is then working on. There shouldn't be anything in there. You can see how clean and shiny my airbrush is. Now, quick word about airbrushes. This is a cheap, nasty Chinese airbrush. For the purpose that I've just done, it's absolutely perfect. As you can see, I've got a very good result with it. The colour, it used to be that colour, green. Now it's pretty much, you can't see the circle because it's the same colour as the masking tape. This particular one came from MJR Hobbies. This was about, I actually bought it with an airbrush, with a compressor. The compressor and 2 airbrushes came to, don't quote me on this, round about 200, less than £200. The airbrush on its own is about £20. Really not very expensive. I do own an expensive Iwata. This is the second airbrush that it came with. This I tend to use for primers. What I do is on my airbrush, on my compressor, I bang the pressure up quite high, and this one can't control the airflow. It can only control the amount of trigger. So this is quite useful for base coating, laying down primers, painting large surface areas. If you want something a little bit more precise, I like this one because it's got that method to control the airflow. I also think this is a 0.3 needle, might even be a 0.2. This is a 0.4, possibly a 0.5. It did come with an extra needle, which I probably can't find. But I've got a few airbrushes, but these are the 2 that I use the most. This one for laying down large colours, this one. And I'm going to argue in favour that you do not need an expensive airbrush. You hear people talking about this airbrush, that brush, so this is the best. What you'll get with a more expensive airbrush is reliability. It'll probably last longer. The only thing I'll say about these is the needles do need a bit of a polish. If you get something, what I normally do with my airbrushes, if it's a cheap one, I will get something like Autosol, a metal polish. If you imagine, if you cut through the needle, you'll get a circle like this, and then you've got a hole like this, and it's going to plug that hole, and that's why the paint doesn't come out. With cheaper brushes, they're probably not manufactured quite so good, so instead of being circular like that, they're probably rough, so you're going to get these tiny gaps. What I always do is I get my needle, I pop it into a Dremel, so it's sticking out the end of the Dremel, hold it carefully, because the centrifugal force, when you switch the Dremel on, the needle's going to want to do that. So you hold the needle, lathe would probably do it as well, and then I get some Autosol on a cloth, and I just run the cloth and Autosol up and down the needle, and that will give you a highly polished needle. But anyway, so that's my clean airbrush. Still got a little bit of airbrush thinner in it, and for you guys I'm going to cut to another scene, but for me it's going to be a whole day. Now the reason I leave this a whole day, I'm just going to remove the masking tape around the area. I don't like to remove that masking tape. One thing that I've mentioned in the past, I don't know if I've mentioned it on this series of videos, the difference between drying and curing. So let me just, now this paint is dry. What I mean by that is, look, it's not, if I give it a gentle rub, it's not coming off on my fingers. That's dry. But it's not fully hardened. Remember that paint is effectively a plastic. it's not really, it's what we call curing. It needs to go really hard. If I pull that masking tape off now, it could do a little bit of damage. So I'm going to leave that overnight, and I'm going to come back to it in the morning. However, for you, it's going to be in a few seconds. Okay, so while we're waiting for the paint to dry, I want to show you something that I got. Now, this is an optional extra. You don't need to get this. So, and it was quite expensive. So this is a Lancaster bomber crew in 1:32 scale. It comes from Tori factory. Their website is quite simple. It's torifactory.com. And if you look up Lancaster, I just put Lancaster in the search engine. There's a couple of things in there, but make sure you get the 1:32 scale. And it's a crew of 7. I believe, excuse me, sorry, my ear's not in my headphone properly. I believe that one of these won't be used. Now, it is expensive. Sit down before I tell you how much it costs. It is $54 for the crew and $35. These are based in Korea, so postage from Korea to the UK is $35. That makes $91. Now, at the time, that converts to £73.52. So, yeah, do think carefully. I think we have bought everything. Yeah, I think we've bought everything we need to buy. We have to buy to complete the model. That being the model, 15 pots of paint, some primer, some kind of glue, and 2 pots of varnish, and that comes to $388.91. We don't have to buy anything else. Anything else that we buy just makes it look a little bit nicer. Because I am planning on buying the motor and light set so that the propellers go round and things, I feel I have to buy a bomber crew because, you know, one question you're going to ask is, well, if there's nobody in the Lancaster, who's turning the engines on? So that's why I bought these. Now, I got a little bit lucky. I don't know why. Someone else has bought these on the Facebook group, and they've started painting theirs, and they've only mentioned these. I also got given, I'm not going to show you these, well, I'll show you one quickly. I got 2 freebies. Whether it was by accident or whether they're just chucking me extra products, I didn't tell him I was a YouTuber or anything. I just placed the order and went for it. So why he's picked me, I don't know. I am not disputing it. So the next one thing he gave me is this Picket Man. Now, it's not something that I'll probably find useful. It's a 1:35 scale. I would imagine what could be useful, one scenario I can think of, with it being 1:35 scale, if you were to build a tank and do a diorama, you could possibly put him in front of the tank. He's holding something up, so you could perhaps put some words on, you know, stop the war or whatever, and I think that could look quite interesting. Now, the other thing I got, I think this is absolutely brilliant. It's like they read my mind. Anyone who knows me knows that my favourite scale is 1:48, and my favourite subject matter is US Navy aircraft. Obviously, now you're going to ask the question, if you like US Navy aircraft, why are you doing a 1:32 scale Lancaster? But that's another story. So when they sent me this, I nearly fell off my seat. It is 2 US Navy modern women pilots in 1:48 scale, and I am going to very quickly show you these. I am most definitely going to be using these. These are absolutely fantastic. Look at that. That's just one of them. I'm not keen on the ponytail. If I was a pilot, I wouldn't be having my hair pulled up in a ponytail at the back of my head, knowing I've got to put a helmet on. But, you know, it is what it is. And then this is the other one. I'm not going to show you really good detail, but there's a few little extras. But there, she's doing a bit, I think she's doing a bit of a sexy pose. No, she's climbing into the aeroplane. I thought she was doing a sexy pose, but she's actually climbing into the aircraft. So you get an arm and a helmet. I don't know what the helmet's for. But yeah, and she's got two different types of... I can't get a good focus. There we go. Really, really nice. I really do like that. So I will definitely be using these next time I do a modern aircraft, modern US Navy aircraft. You're going to see these pop up. I haven't looked at the prices because I do have a bit of a saying, you don't look a gift horse in the mouth. I'm just going to appreciate that they've sent me these, and on the basis of that I'm going to order more stuff in the future. But what we are looking at today is the Lancaster crew, and I'm going to begin to paint one of these today. I'm going to do a process some of you may have heard of. It's called zenithal highlighting. I will get to that later. So what do we get? Well, first of all, we get a little piece of paper that tells us what each thing is, and I'm going to zoom in as close as I can. Once I zoom to a certain point, my camera goes out of focus. So let's go there, shall we? So obviously you're not going to see what I'm doing off camera, but this is the bag that they come in, and I'm gonna, they're quite similar poses. Some of them are in quite similar positions, so you have to kind of work by the process of elimination. One of the figures actually comes in two halves, so by process of elimination I know this is the middle gunner. Now, not all of these are going to get used because we're doing a Dambusters crew, not a general Lancaster crew. But that's our gunner, our middle gunner. So I'm going to place him there. You can't see him. The next person, this is the one that we're going to be using today. That's not the one we're using today. This is the one. See, these two have got similar poses. This is actually the rear gunner. Can I have a focus, please? Now, you'll see lots and lots of little bits that they do need quite a serious clean up, especially around the bum. But that's the rear gunner. Now, it's not really showing the detail on the camera as much as I'd like. That's why I want to do a zenithal highlight on them. This is the bomb aimer. Bomb aimer stroke front gunner. And I don't know if he's doing a dance there. Maybe he's doing the Vogue. He's listening to Madonna. But he's nice. I believe these are 3D printed resin. Now this guy looks like the wireless operator to me, judging by the pictures. He's really nice. I do like them all. Now this guy might be the navigator. They'll look a bit better once they're actually in position. Again, detail is nice. I'm really going to make use of the crease. They've got creases in the clothing, so I'm really going to make good use of that. I'm going to be pulling out all of my old Warhammer skills. Now this is the flight engineer, and I can see he's pointing at something. There we go. And the one that we're going to be dealing with today is the pilot. And I'm now thankful that I haven't put seat belts on the seat, because I don't know if you can see, it's got all the seat belt attached, because obviously if he's sitting in it, he's going to have a seat belt on, isn't he? So yeah, now there's a bit of theory this is obviously for my model. This is going to be Guy Gibson. There's a theory which I did check the sources of it, where it came from, but the theory is he didn't wear his flight jacket when he was flying. He actually flew in shirt sleeves. Lovely chappy called Andrew, he's been painting his up, and he's done the top blue to match the shirt. Now I'm not 100% happy with that, because obviously you can see the bulk of his arms. He's obviously wearing a jacket. Now, do I grind that down, or do I just ignore it? I have actually found another figure which I am going to buy. It is expensive, but it's of Guy Gibson standing with his dog, whose name I will not mention. We've just had an invader. As soon as I mention the word dog, we get a cat. I'm sorry, mister, but can you just go down, because I've got really delicate figures. Right, there we go. He's going to pop up. He normally tries about 3 times to jump up on the table, so do expect him another 2 times. So the scenario I'm going to use, I'm going to buy this other figure. Let's say we're not going to mention the dog's name. I think in the Dambusters film, do they call him Trigger? But it you know, obviously that's not his authentic name, but we're not going to mention that on camera. So the scenario that I'm going to use is that maybe this plane isn't actually, it's not time to go yet. It's maybe Guy Gibson's got someone else to just do the pre-flight checks or something. I don't know, but this is actually not going to be Guy Gibson. Here we go. There's number 2. You're beautiful, but you get in the way when I'm filming. There you go, my man. Right, so expect him one more time. But he is a lovely figure. So a couple of bits that I've got to figure out whether it's support material or not. Let me find some pointy device. Down here, we've got what looks like could be 2 straps, could be support material. And then we've got these little bits behind the where the ears are. So I'm really not sure about that. But we've got enough to be going on with. So basically his bum did look like that. And I have been gently cleaning him up. And the way I'm cleaning him up is I'm literally doing it one bit at a time. So we find a bit that we're not happy with, and I'm just clipping it. And then I'm getting a fine sander. I'm just giving it a gentle rub over the top, and then you'll see on his bum I've got scratches. Sorry, focus is awful. So you'll see some scratches on his bum. Once I actually sand it, and it actually sands a little bit off the surrounding area, then I know I've got rid of the support material. And I'm just going round it all doing that. So I will carry on cleaning this up. This is pretty much cleaning up the same way as I've shown you on the previous video, but it's very easy to do. You do not want to rub too hard. This is resin, and resin will wear down very, very quickly. Technically speaking, I should be wearing a mask, because if you breathe in resin dust, it can really do nasty things to you. But there we go. Right, so the next thing I want to do, once I've cleaned him up, I haven't finished cleaning him up, but I've cleaned him up enough. I want to prepare him for painting. Now I want to hold him in a way that I can paint all of it. And the easiest way to do that is to drill a hole in his somewhere where it's not going to be so not going to be seen, so that I don't want to hold the model, I want to hold something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole in his bum, so that I can hold him. The reason I've chosen the bum is because obviously once he's, let me find the pilot seat. So we're going to place him in the pilot seat, something like that. Oh, he fits really well. I did a test fit before and he didn't fit because he had so much support material on his bum. But now I can see I really want him something like that, so that those seat belts are touching the back of the seat. So if I drill the hole there, you can see it won't be seen once he's actually in the seat. But he's a nice fit, isn't he? So let's go there, right between the creases. So the way I'm going to do this is, normally what I do is I drill a hole and I super glue in a paper clip, and then I'll stick that paper clip into maybe a piece of cork or something, and I've got myself a holder. But I'm actually going to use these crocodile clips, which I use for airbrushing, with a cocktail stick on it. And I like the cocktail stick because it tapers at the end. So what I want to do is get a drill bit which is bigger than the end of the cocktail stick but smaller than the main shaft. Now that was a 1.5, and I think that might be a touch too big. We can always drill a... Oh, excuse me 1 second. So my apologies for that. I had an alarm set on Echo, and I need to go down to the shops. I like to get the shops when just as they open. Right, so this is a 1.2, and like I say, you can always drill bigger, but you can't drill smaller. Now I'm not normally, I'll try and cheat and use an electric drill, but because this is resin, I am not going to. Okay, so get that down as far as I can and double check our point. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference exactly where. Right, and I'm going to aim for the middle of the body. If I aim there, I've only got that much before the drill comes out the other end. If I go that way, I've got even less. If I go straight up, sort of aiming for his neck, and then you'll see that as long as I get that, it's not gonna go through. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to gently, and this isn't too easy, gently drill a hole. Do you know what, guys? I'm going to use a smaller drill bit. I think I'm trying to take too much out at once. So I'm going to use a 1mm. That's actually a 1.3, guys. Sorry, I lied. So I'll use a 1mm because that will drill a bit easier. The smaller the drill, the easier it is to drill. So I'm going to use a 1mm, and then I'm going to re-drill it with a 1.3. And this is going to take me ages, but yeah, you can see the resin coming out. And ideally, I want to drill about that much, just to give it enough. I don't want it, when I spray it with an airbrush, I don't want the force of the air blowing the model across the room. So I've got to be able to sort of wedge that cocktail stick in, or whatever you're using. Wedge that cocktail stick in, and then be able to pull it out at the end. Okay, and I really should be using it. So guys, I'm going to tell you to use a mask. I've gone a little bit off center. Don't know if you can see. So, but that's why I'm always aiming for that point. So we'll just double check that. I'll get away with that. Right, what I tend to do, once I get quite a lot of resistance, I start to pull the drill out. See, that's going in quite nice. Now, what's happening is obviously as we're drilling, all the debris that's coming out is going down the drill, and my hand is hurting. I'm really bad at drilling, and it's clogging it up. So once it's starting to get really hard work. So what I'm doing is I'm still drilling, but I'm just pulling that out a little bit, and there we go. And then every so often pop the drill in, and I can see how far in I've drilled, and I think that's pretty much there actually. Right, just clean that out a bit, pop the cocktail stick in, because if that's enough, do you know what, that's probably enough. No, okay, bit more. Right, so switch the drill bit from a 1mm to the 1.3. And we'll re-drill that hole, but this is going to make it a little bit wider. It should be a lot easier to drill now because half the work has been done for us. There we go. That's gone in super easy. And if you don't want to step it up too much, you can always go each particular drill bit. I've actually got some drill bits from Lidl's, and these nice electronic board ones. And I think I've bought every size from 0.3 up to about 3mm. I think I'm happy with that. There we go. I am happy with that. Right, so that's my my pilot ready for painting, and then obviously once we're finished we can pull him off easily. And as you can see, you can't see that hole in his bum. You could even, if you really wanted to, get a piece of rod or something, or a paper clip, and then mark out where the hole is. So rather than gluing him to the seat, you could drill a hole into the seat, and you can actually peg him in. But I'm not going to do that. Right, so once I've got my cocktail stick on, I'm going to work out how much excess I've got, and I'm just going to cut that cocktail stick down a little bit to about there. The more excess cocktail stick you have, the more he's going to wave about. And then he's going to go onto there like that. I mean, this is just one of many methods to attach him. But obviously now I've got a little, you can use corrugated cardboard, but when I finish painting him, and I'm just going to do a little bit of belt and braces. I'm going to get a little piece of masking tape, and I'm just going to tape over there, just to sort of stop it from coming out a bit further. And there's my little stand. So what I'm going to do now, you're going to get really excited about this. I'm going to put all these back in the bag. Obviously I'm going to put my my drill bit away, because if you don't put bits away straight away, they get lost. This is why I end up buying multiples of everything. So you go, I'm letting out a secret. If I own more than one of anything, it's usually because I've not put it away properly, lost it. I need to just put that masking tape actually onto the cocktail stick as well, because it's rotating. Yeah, if I own more than one of anything, it's generally because I've not put it away, and then oh, it wasn't the cocktail stick that was loose, it was actually him. Might actually glue him in. If you glue him in, it won't be a problem. All you have to do once you're finished is just cut him there. Just make sure there's no excess showing. Yeah, so if I've got more than one of anything, it's usually because I haven't put it away properly and I've ended up buying another one. So there's my dirty little secret that's just come out. Right guys, I need to go down to the shops, so I'm going to do this when I come back. Obviously it's going to be a second for you. This is my yellow dot, which is still, do you know, I think that might be good enough now to actually remove the masking tape. So if this doesn't work, guys, it's not a problem, because we'll just start the whole process all over again. So let's get that started with something. Whoops, I've just dropped something on the floor and I don't know what that was. I can't see it. Right, so careful not to catch the paintwork. I should actually have made this masking tape longer. Here we go. That's coming. That's coming. Oh, look at that. Look at that, guys. That I didn't know how this was going to turn. I genuinely didn't know how it was going to turn out. So there I have got a yellow circle. And as you can see, it's just ever so slightly faded at the edges. And that's because of the, it wasn't a clean cut. But I like that. I think that makes it look 60 years old. Now I will be weathering it, and I think that dirty yellow is actually still quite bright, but I don't think it's quite so stark a yellow. Another alternative I could have done, actually thinking about it now, is I could have actually painted that black and then put the yellow on. That would really have sort of toned it down a bit. But yeah, no, that I'm actually happy with that. Some of you may disagree. But no, I'm happy with that. So I think another thing that we can do, if you are happy with that, that's as far as you want to go, I would suggest going over that with a matte varnish, and that will protect all of that, because this paint will scratch. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go over it with a gloss varnish, and then we can do a little bit of light weathering to it. And then once we've done the light weathering, then we'll go over with a matte varnish, which will then seal everything in. So yeah, that I'm actually happy with. So I didn't leave that overnight. I left that for about an hour or two. But I'm really happy with that result. So one other thing to show you that I've forgotten to show you are these. This came with the Lancaster crew, and these are oxygen tubes. So they're going to run from, you see that he's got a mask on, and there'll be a tube running from it, which is obviously going to supply him with oxygen. They've all got them. No, one of them obviously hasn't. I hope one of them hasn't, because they've only supplied me with 6, and there are 7 members of the crew. So who doesn't want oxygen? Thankfully we're not going to be using them all, but oh no, this one's already got one built in. This one's already built into the model, so he doesn't need one. Right guys, so I'm going to, I don't know if I'd call that, if I'm going to be critical, this, I don't think that's careful packaging myself, but right. But that's fine, that's fine. So I'm really happy with that purchase. I'm going to put him in the bag, because I'm lost without those instructions. So I am going to continue cleaning him up. I'll work out what these little bits are, and then I'm going to tell you all what zenithal highlighting is. So we'll give him a zenithal highlight. If you are impressed with the detail now, you wait until I do the zenithal highlighting, and it will blow you away, I absolutely promise you. Right. Hi guys, so I do apologise, I noticed that time was getting on a little bit, so I'm going to save the zenithal highlighting for the next video. So, time to do the costings. So, as you can see, the Hachette model, I'm on the wrong bit, is $10.99. We did the cockpit, detailing to seat platform and framing, fuselage canopy and cockpit floor, quite a lot to do. One of the issues that I have is that cockpit. Putting the glass in, it's just an accident waiting to happen. There's a couple of bits that, you know, they're nice bits, but, you know, like Scott says, no, you're just pushing your luck with it. So I'm only going to give 1 mark for 1 positive for Hachette, because it is still nice. It is very nice, and when you look at the end result for issue 4, I think you've achieved quite a lot. So with us on the Hachette, we've spent £73.52. Why have I put filling hole in fuselage? Oh, it's because that was my plan on what to do. That's not what I actually did. So far, the Hachette version has cost £30.96. Hong Kong has cost £471.41, which gives us a deficit of £440.45. Now, the £73 that we spent this week is an optional. So I am absolutely certain that this, in fact, I'm probably going to fill it with a different colour, because let's fill it with a nice soft green. I want to keep hold of that, because I feel at this stage that is all you need to spend. You don't need to buy anything else. It's just that I've chosen to do aftermarket parts just to bring it up a bit. I'm absolutely confident with £377.92, even if you don't have an airbrush, I think you can achieve a very good result. So let's put some positive points on this. The only thing really that I've shown you that's new is the Tori factory Lancaster crew. I'd love to give them bonus points for the 2 extras, the picket man and the pilots, but let's be fair, not everyone's going to get that. Some people might get more than I got for free, but the pilots are very, very, very nice. Now I've only done the pilot. What I'm very tempted to do, and tell me if you think this is unfair, if I did each of the crew in separate videos and gave it a plus point for each of those videos, do you think that's fair, or should I give 1 plus point just for the whole pack? But look, I'll give a plus point. So at the moment, in my weird little rating system, Hong Kong is winning by 2 points. Obviously, once we start getting more stuff done, then that points will probably change. But Hachette is running along very nicely. They're gaining a point every issue, because the parts, whether you like part works or not, you have to admit they are nice parts. So we are plodding along. Now, a bit of a spoiler, I've seen what's coming in the next few issues for the Hachette version, and I'm going to have to pull my finger out with the Hong Kong model version, because I think Hachette are going to be picking up some major points. But that's all I'm going to tell you. So guys, in the next issue, next stage, we will definitely be starting work on the pilot, and I should hopefully be starting some fixie work inside the fuselage. So until then, have an absolutely wonderful week. Take care, guys. Bye bye.